Plug in Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is match day review showtime, and as you can see, consecutive week of me being by myself. Reese is unavailable this week, so similar concept to what we did last week after the Doncaster defeat. And although Gills managed to pick up a point at Prenton Park against lowly Tranmere Rovers, similar feelings I think amongst the fan base after what was a lacklustre performance at best against a side that are just not very good, let's be honest. But unfortunately, we're a side that's not very good either. Yeah, there were 3 changes. I think it was from the defeat against Doncaster Rovers at Priestfield 8 days ago. Out came Jaden Clark, Ethan Coleman and Aisha Agbenoni, injured. We'll get to that in a little while. And in came Bradley Dack. And for their debuts, Nelson Kumbeni and Jimmy J. Morgan on loan from Chelsea, who signed on Friday morning. Same system, which was a bit surprised to me. It looks like a 3-4-1-2 again. So it was same 3 centre-backs and goalkeeper. And then Ramo Hutton and Jack Nolan somehow, for me, managed to retain their places because both were bloody awful last weekend. Aside from that sort of first period where we pressed and played with some intensity as a team. After that, I mean, Ramo Hutton couldn't trap a bag of sand, and Jack Nolan offered absolutely nothing offensively or defensively throughout that game against Doncaster in the remaining hour. But yeah, like I say, debuts for Kumbeni and Jimmy J. Morgan up front. He partnered Elliot Nevitt. I don't understand it. Like Jaden Clark, for me, we've seen him play wing-back on a few occasions with 10 men against the likes of Tranmere and Chesterfield earlier in the season. He's our top scorer. He offers more defensively. He obviously offers more offensively than Jack Nolan in terms of just numbers. And that's fact, isn't it? That's not opinion. 7 goals and 2 assists for Jaden Clark against, what was it, 1 of each, maybe 2 for Nolan in terms of assists. Been a massive disappointment. Harry Webster, the mystery of his continuing a mission goes on, was really, really good in 2 games against MK Dons and Salford, albeit under a different manager in the middle of December, and hasn't been seen ever since, which is really, really strange, given the ongoing poor performances of Ramo Hutton. Conceded 20 shots, didn't we, against a side that are more shot shy than us. It's just staggering how we continually make really bad sides look good. And I'm in a WhatsApp group with a few other League 2 fans, and one is a Tranmere Rovers supporter, and he said, like, he just couldn't believe how bad we were. We were making Tranmere look like a good side. And then he said at full time, like, if they can't beat what he said is the worst Gillingham side he's ever watched, then they're in trouble. So it doesn't say a lot about us either, does it, unfortunately? But yeah, 20 shots conceded against one of the worst attacking outfits in the entire EFL was frankly not good enough again. And the goal is just synonymous with everything that we continually do wrong. I think we give the ball away. And I've not watched the game. I've not bought myself to watch it. I cannot be bothered to sit through 90 minutes and write extensive notes on another performance, which will effectively be rinse and repeat, which will effectively be copy and paste. I've seen the goal online. It's absolutely tragic. I think it's Nelson Kumbeni gives the ball away initially. We then get out-muscled, we get out-fought, we get out-strengthed. We then don't put any pressure on the football. We allow them to get into a dangerous area, play a couple of one-touch passes. We then don't track the runner in behind. Ramo Hutton looks like he's treading water in a diving suit with chains around his ankles into a headwind. It gives the bloke 3 or 4 yards head start, and the bloke looks like he's running in slow motion and goes past Hutton, squares it, and then their scorer Solomon just runs unattended into the 6-yard box, doesn't get picked up by a mixture of Shadogi or Jack Nolan. It's definitely one of their men. And I guess in the sense of Jack Nolan, if we're talking about him, it's probably not entirely his fault because he's not a defensive footballer. He's being asked to do a slightly different role, and that's the risk you take as a manager when you play an attacking and a forward-thinking player as a wing-back. I mean, we've got Max Clark on the bench. I'm not saying he's a natural wing-back, but he certainly would be more adept at doing it than Jack Nolan. But obviously I'm not picking the team. That's John Coleman and Jimmy Bell doing that. At the other end, we were blunt, is probably the politest way to describe it again, isn't it? 1 shot on target against a very poor football team. And that was a tame Morgan header, I think, wasn't it, in the first half, that sort of looped up and went straight to Luke McGee. Even the goal, which is quite clever. If we're looking for positives in terms of everyone thinks Jack Nolan's just going to clip it into the box, but he doesn't. He sort of plays a little reverse ball inside to Armani Little, then he gets his head up. Bradley Dack's been cute enough to move into a position on the wide on the left-hand side and drift into space. So Little finds him, and then it's a sort of cross-come shot across the 6-yard line, and Morgan's there battling with the centre-half, and it's the centre-half Turnbull that eventually gets the final touch to get us level. But again, it's just another thing that's synonymous with us at the moment, isn't it? We can't even score a goal. We're having to rely on another team's centre-half to do it. But yeah, 1-1 at the break. I mean, I've seen John Coleman's press conference after the game, or interview, sorry, and he says that he thought that was fair based on what each side created. I didn't. I mean, they could have been 2 or 3 up from what I've read and what I've listened to and spoke to other people that have been at the game or watched it on telly by means. But yeah, we've gone to a side that are bang out of form, no confidence at all. And people keep using the words playoffs, and I said last week, it's insulting to the rest of the Football League to associate us with the word playoffs. We're not too far away from a relegation battle. Again, we're 17th now after the draw, which is where we finished that first season after the takeover, wasn't it? After being bottom at Christmas and New Year. And like I said last week, I genuinely don't know what to say about this bunch of players. Like, is Jordan Turnbull going to be presented with something at the game next week prior to kick-off against Notts County? Because he's going to win goal of the month for January for us, and that's what we do. It's embarrassing. Injuries is another issue. We signed Aisha Agbenoni from Crystal Palace. Plays last week, looks all right, best of a bad bunch, that type of thing. I'm not going to go over top in terms of what I thought of his performance. He was bright, but again, it's a low bar, isn't it? Not even in the 18 this week, seems to have picked up a knock or a problem with his back. Morgan apparently was limping or struggling when he got taken off for Ollie Hawkins against Tranmere, so that's another lone player that's come in and has to come off before the 90 minutes because of a problem. Is there any sort of investigation into why this is happening, why it continually keeps happening? We know about the injury crisis at the start of the season. It was just relentless, wasn't it? I think the first 2 months we had an average of about 8 or 9 players unavailable on a weekly basis. We then started getting them back. Ironically, our form dropped off the edge of a cliff. Josh Andrews is another prime example. We sign him injured. He takes 2 months to make his debut. He breaks down in the summer. He comes back. He then does an interview saying he's going to kick on under John Coleman because he's played for him before. He's out for the rest of the season, apparently. He's done his PCL in training. Just an absolute disaster. He gets replaced by Ollie Hawkins, who's been out for ages with a knee injury. Connor Masterson's missing another large spell. Armani Little's missed 2 or 3 spells this season. Bradley Dack, we know we've had to sort of, wrap him in cotton wool and a kid gloves approach, but he's another one who we signed and then we barely saw him first half of the campaign. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, surely someone has having to look into this, like patterns of, I don't know what, I'm not a medical expert, but I don't know, training methods or recovery sessions. I'm not sure, but it's staggering the amount of injuries that we keep getting, and it can't keep being bad luck, surely. Sorry, like I said, it's just copy and paste, isn't it? It's rinse and repeat, talking about our inadequacies, talking about the fact that we're an unlikable football team. They don't make it easy to support them, do they, this bunch of players? Like I say, just from their demeanour, the goals they concede. You see Jack Nolan taking a pot shot second half. He's like a vet search. He's about 40 yards from goal and he's essentially on the touchline and he's trying to volley it at goal. And it ends up in the stand behind the net. And you just think, like I said last week on the review after Doncaster, we can't even do the basics correctly, let alone the stuff that's more difficult technically in a football match. I mean, we struggle to pass it 5 yards and 10 yards half the time. The goal's a case in point, we give it away. I just cannot understand the thought process of this bunch of players at the moment. And yeah, unlikable is the word I keep coming back to. And fair play to everybody that travelled up there I've not seen the exact figures of how many we took to go and support the boys, and it's a long way to go again. And I've made the decision, myself and Ava, that we're not going to do away games. It's just not enjoyable. And and I've always been one of these football fans that takes the approach: you pays your money, you takes your chance, because you see some that go, oh, when a team gets bashed, you should get a refund. That's not how football works. And I get that entirely. You do pays your money and you do takes your chance, but you can choose whether you want to keep paying out money to go and watch your team when they're not giving you anything back. And I've said no. I'll be at home games and I'll get behind the boys because I've got a season ticket, but it feels like a chore. We're back to where we were when we were struggling to even score a goal in the first half of 22-23. We're back to where we were when we were getting relegated out of League One and we were getting bashed all the time and conceding 3 in 15 minutes at home to Ipswich and conceding 7 at home to Oxford. But they were good sides. Like, Oxford are in the Championship, Ipswich are in the Premier League now. We're struggling against absolute pelt these days, and it's synonymous of how much we've declined. We're just regressing really quickly, aren't we? Like, on the pitch, sorry. And I go back to that comment, and I've said it a few times in recent months, about what Tony Pulis said on a TV documentary at the end of the 97-98 season. And he said, you can have all the great facilities off the pitch, doesn't matter. If you haven't got a side that's worthy of people coming to watch, then it means absolutely nothing. And that's exactly where we're at as a football club at the moment. Off the pitch, brilliant. Loads of good work going on. Marketing's great. Commercial side is brilliant. Hospitality's brilliant. Football side, bloody miles behind. Absolutely miles behind. And again, like I said last week, sick to the back teeth of it. Sick to the back teeth of it ruining our Saturdays, ruining our Tuesdays. Football's meant to be like an escapism, isn't it? You look forward to it at a weekend or a Tuesday night to take you away from the stresses of life and work and that type of thing. But where's the escape in this football club at the moment? There isn't any for me. And I don't think I'm the only person that thinks it and feels this way. It's sad to keep saying it, that we're in this position. Yeah, essentially where I'm at. But we're an embarrassment on the pitch at the moment. And I'm not, I'm not apportioning any blame to John Coleman. He's been here 5 minutes, but I've watched his interview again afterwards, and he comes out and says that players have to work harder. We said that 3 weeks ago when you turned up, that there was going to be a bare minimum and that you wanted every manager that we came up against to say, cool, your boys worked hard, yet we've had 2 games and we're still going on about it. Just drop these players. If they're not interested in working hard and they're not interested in playing for that badge, then just let them rot. Like, we've got double figures in terms of players out of contract at the end of the season. We're probably just going to have to put up with it for the next 4 months, because we're not going anywhere in this football league. We won't get relegated, but we certainly won't get anywhere near the top 7. It's another season of transition and just a waste of time, unfortunately, and a lack of entertainment and a lack of fun. And he said he was happy with a point. I'll end it there, because that's just another damning indictment of where we are as a football club. After all the belief that we had in the summer and in August and September when we were winning football matches. Happy with a point on the road against an absolutely tragic Tranmere team that could get relegated out of the EFL, that have scored 19 goals across 25 games this season, and we even had to rely on them to net for us. Anyway, like I say, apologies that I can't bring you any more positive content at the moment, but I can only react to what we're seeing on the pitch. Thank you, as always, for watching and listening. Please continue to hit that like button, and please continue to consider subscribing. I've had quite a good uptake on subscriptions over the last few weeks. It's amazing what negativity does for people wanting to listen to you, isn't it? But anyway, we're back middle of the week with a Notts County fan to preview another big game next Saturday, and that will be a tough one, and we'll have to be a lot better than we've certainly been in recent weeks, and we were on Saturday afternoon. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed your weekend, football aside, and up the Gills.